He grimaced and then coughed. "Ah, yes, supper." He staggered away, and Fowler chuckled. "It must be bloody nice to be a duke and scare little boys away with a glance," Fowler taunted. "Us mere mortals usually have to give them a boot in the arse to be rid of them." Sylvester smiled, even though his facial muscles were out of practice, and he knew it was not a pretty sight. As harsh and uncivil as Fowler was, he liked the other man a great deal. Not only was the sea captain turned shipbuilder clever and amusing, but he elevated plain speaking to an art form. The whore who was sitting on his lap, Delia, Sylvester thought her name was, shifted restlessly, her hand going to Sylvester's face, the unscarred side. She stroked him and whispered into his neck, her bottom rubbing suggestingly over his groin. "What about you, your Grace? Have you worked up an appetite? Are you hungry?" Sylvester knew that Delia wasn't talking about the surprisingly excellent supper the pigeonhole laid out for its victims as an incentive to stay. But her carnal words did nothing to stir him, so he ignored her offer. The deal passed to the lugubrious Lord Framling, a man who'd been losing as steadily as Sylvester and Fowler had been winning. Sylvester had at least 2,000 in his pile, and Fowler even more. "You going to supper or staying?" Fowler asked, as they waited for fresh packs of cards, which was Framling's prerogative. Sylvester opened his mouth to say neither, when the door to the card room swung open, and a newcomer hovered in the doorway. "Ah, fresh meat," Fowler said, pausing in the process of stuffing some of the notes on the table into his pocket. The big Scot sized up the young man and snorted disparagingly. "Although it doesn't look like he'll have much to contribute to my purse." Sylvester had to agree. The newcomer was a stripling who couldn't have been more than 18. He was a spindly lad, and his well-made clothing hung on his tall, thin frame. Thick spectacles perched on a long, bony nose that looked out of place above a full but tight-lipped mouth. As he came closer to the table, Sylvester readjusted his estimate. The boy looked closer to 15 than 18. He was nothing but sharp angles and fine-boned fragility. He looked far too young to be out and about by himself at such an advanced hour. "Here, then," Fowler said, eyeing the youngster with a look harsh enough to strip the barnacles off a ship's hull. "I think you took the wrong door, lad. The nursery's one house down." The others chuckled, and even Sylvester snorted. The boy's skin, pale, soft, and not yet sprouting hair, flushed darkly. He took off his hat, exposing hair that was the shocking orangish red of an actual orange, and dropped his skinny carcass into the chair where the last stripling had sat. He placed his hand on the table, and when it came away, there was a tightly rolled wad of banknotes in its place. Fowler chuckled. "I guess that shuts me up." Sylvester studied the boy's flushed profile. Strawberry blonde eyelashes grew thick and without any curve from lids that rode heavy over pale sea-coloured eyes. His fine hair was overlong and brushed his collar. Even a heavy dollop of pomade could not stop the frizzy curls, except around the boy's temples, where the corkscrews had been brutally scraped back to expose fair skin with blue veins pulsing beneath. The lad turned towards Sylvester, obviously aware of his scrutiny. Not by a blink or even a change in breathing did he show any surprise at Sylvester's hideously scarred face. That alone was unusual in Sylvester's experience.